Hare Krishna. Welcome to our channel. Bhagavad-gita, here it is. Because we have the Bhagavad-gita as it is. Translation and commentary by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. And my name is Bhagavad-gita. So today we are entering into a whole new chapter. Chapter 13, Nature, the Enjoyer and Consciousness. Stay with us.
Shri Guru Shri Juta Padakamalang.
So here we are. We just went through the 12th chapter about devotional service, which is the conclusion of the middle 6th chapter of the Bhagavad-gita that deal directly with devotional service, which is actually the main thing about the whole Bhagavad-gita. But in order to understand devotional service, we have to understand a little bit about ourselves, about the world, and so on. And chapter 13 is actually very interesting. We will start with text 1 and 2. They come grouped together here. So we read the Sanskrit. Arjuna uvacha prakriting purushang chaiva kshetrang kshetragyameva cha etad veditumicchami jnanam gyayam cha keshava. Shri Bhagavan uvacha idang shariram kaunteya kshetramityabhidhiyate etadyo vetitang prahu kshetragya iti tad viraha. Sanskrit is so funny. I feel like I should understand it. I don't completely understand it. I pick up some terms and I don't fully understand it. And I'm not going to study Sanskrit to that level in this life, so I'm extremely grateful to Srila Prabhupada, who has translated everything in such a way that we can actually understand it and apply it in our lives. So this text here, the translation says, Arjuna said, "O my dear Krishna, I wish to know about Prakriti, nature, Purusha, the enjoyer, and the field and the knower of the field, and of knowledge and the object of knowledge." The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "This body, O son of Kunti, is called the field, and one who knows this body is called the knower of the field." Purport. Arjuna was inquisitive about Prakriti, nature, Purusha, the enjoyer, Kshetra, the field, Kshetragya, its knower, and knowledge and the object of knowledge. When he inquired about all these, Krishna said that this body is called the field, that one who knows this body is called the knower of the field. This body is the field of activity for the conditioned soul. The conditioned soul is entrapped in material existence, and he attempts to lord it over material nature. And so, according to his capacity to dominate material nature, he gets a field of activity. That field of activity is the body. And what is the body? The body is made of senses. The conditioned soul wants to enjoy sense gratification, and according to his capacity to enjoy sense gratification, he is offered a body or field of activity. Therefore, the body is called kshetra, or the field of activity for the conditioned soul. Now, the person who should not identify himself with the body is called kshetragya, the knower of the field. It is not very difficult to understand the difference between the field and its knower, the body and the knower of the body. Any person can consider that from childhood to old age, he undergoes so many changes of body, and yet is still one person remaining. Thus, there is a difference between the knower of the field of activities and the actual field of activities. A living conditioned soul can thus understand that he is different from the body. It is described in the beginning. Yes, it was some time ago we read the 2nd chapter. If you just joined us recently, I have put playlists in the little description box below for each and every chapter. And if you start here, I would actually strongly recommend to go back and start from the beginning if you're interested in reading in a systematic way. Prabhupada starts with the introduction to the Bhagavad-gita that puts us, in the right frame of mind to enter into the Bhagavad-gita. And in the 2nd chapter, Arjuna asks some basic questions, and Krishna lays the whole groundwork. Because without understanding the fact that we as the conscious living entity, we are different from the body. And here it comes back again, described as the field and the knower of the field. But yes, the second chapter is the first basis for understanding the rest of the Bhagavad-gita. Yes. Any person can consider that from childhood to old age he undergoes so many changes of body and yet is still one person remaining. This is a fact. I look at old photos of me and I can see it's me because I remember all those faces. Whereas sometimes I get to know someone now and they look at a photo of me from childhood, they don't see the resemblance, they don't see the sameness because the body has changed a lot. Those tiny little cute bodies that we all start with, acting and moving and looking so fresh and new and soft, completely different from how the body turns out a few decades later. But I was there in all of them, moving, or rather not moving, but the body would change around me. So it's not the same, but I was there all along. This is not difficult to understand. As Prabhupada points out, it's not difficult to understand. But if we don't have the information from the Bhagavad-gita about the spiritual nature, we may not come to that same conclusions on our own. We could. It's possible to, by putting our intelligence to work, conclude that the difference between life and consciousness and identity, those are all held in the soul, and the physical body is something else, that when the soul moves on, the physical body really has no value on its own. It's possible to get there, but it's a lot easier if we get some help by it, for instance, reading the Bhagavad-gita. It is described in the beginning, Dehi Nosmin, that the living entity is within the body and that the body is changing from childhood to boyhood and from boyhood to youth and from youth to old age. And the person who owns the body knows that the body is changing. The owner is distinctly kshetragya. Sometimes we think, I'm happy, I'm a man, I'm a woman, I'm a dog, I'm a cat. These are the bodily designations of the knower. But the knower is different from the body. Although we may use many articles, our clothes, etc., we know that we are different from the things used. Similarly, we also understand by a little contemplation that we are different from the body. I or you or anyone else who owns a body is called kshetragya, the knower of the field of activities, and the body is called kshetra, the field of activities itself. So, yeah, we use many articles, our clothes, etc. So if you put on clothes, we have clothes, put on clothes, put on a coat and hat, and you will look at a shape that has a head and arms and a body, and you can conclude that under those there is a body. And if you have a body that moves and is alive and so on, you can conclude that under the layer of the body there is somebody alive, there is somebody there. And you may not conclude that if we may not conclude that if we're in a culture that is not making a point of giving us that knowledge. It may go largely unnoticed, but as soon as we point it out, it is quite clear. We have this this old example. You're saying, my hand, my head, my leg, my shoulders. Yes, they're all mine, but who am I? Even my body, I will say my body. Well, I am the knower within the body. I am the person that carries this body. I am the soul. And it's a small sentence to put that together. I am not my body, I am the soul within the body, so it is my body. But that is the basis for self-realization, to come to that point. In the first 6 chapters of Bhagavad-gita, the knower of the body, the living entity, and the position by which he can understand the Supreme Lord are described. In the middle 6 chapters of the Bhagavad-gita, the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the relationship between the individual soul and the supersoul in regard to devotional service are described. The superior position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the subordinate position of the individual soul are definitely defined in these chapters. The living entities are subordinate under all circumstances, but in their forgetfulness they are suffering. When enlightened by pious activities, they approach the Supreme Lord in different capacities. As the distressed, those in want of money, the inquisitive, and those in search of knowledge. That is also described. Now, starting with the 13th chapter, how the living entity comes into contact with material nature and how he is delivered by the Supreme Lord through the different methods of fruitive activities, cultivation of knowledge, and the discharge of devotional service are explained. Although the living entity is completely different from the material body, he somehow becomes related. This is also explained. Yes, so we are going to go into the 13th chapter and we're going to get a lot of knowledge. This is very encouraging. So in one sense, it's a bit of a repetition, but in another sense, the perspective will be a little different. So we will learn something new. So I thought this was interesting because I'm reading Bhagavad-gita, but I don't always think about the structure. So here Prabhupada says, in the first chapter of Bhagavad-gita, the knower of the body, the living entity, and the position by which he can understand the Supreme Lord are described. In the middle 6th chapter, the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the relationship between the individual soul and the super soul in regard to devotional service are described. So now we will go forward to hear in the 13th chapter how the living entity comes into contact with material nature and how he is delivered by the Supreme Lord. Because that's sometimes a little mystifying. If we are spirit souls, then why are we here? So the simple answer is because we wanted to. Another answer is that this is what Krishna has given us, these facilities. But yeah, let's continue this chapter and come back and hear more about these fascinating topics of the Bhagavad-gita. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you for watching. We aim for updates every Tuesday and Friday. Please come back. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down there. We also have some links and information for you. And there is, of course, the subscribe button. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
I'm a Hare Krishna, and I approve this message. Subscribe.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama.